What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking Star Seraphs in this video and asking the question, did we give up on this archetype a little too quickly? Could they be very viable right now, or, post Breaker of Shadows? And one of the reasons that I'm asking this is because there was a lot of buzz when World Superstars came out about Stick and Chair, about the Star Seraph archetype, very similar to like the clowns of Clash of Rebellion. And people tried, I think a few people tried to build a pure Star Seraph build, figured out that really wasn't as impressive as they might have liked it to been. Then they tried it in Sertellon Knights. It worked there because Scald Haunted plus Stick and Chair has always been pretty good. It's an all-light deck. Obviously, you didn't really have to take out the Onuses, and it was also rank 4, so it kind of worked there. And then people tried it in Shadows too, and it was pretty good in Shadows because it gave the deck more supplemental pieces to discard for like summons of Construct and whatnot. It kind of worked there, as you saw, like Performages kind of do the same thing. And I do find it a little curious that you haven't seen Star Seraphs have that much success in the last few months, and it's kind of weird because I think that right now, like, the game is more conducive to them being good than at any time probably ever. I found this top 16 build on Team Avalanche's channel, and I'm like, oh, okay, it looks pretty legitimate. Made a few adjustments to try and make it like post Breaker of Shadows, and I saw a build play I believe it was last night on Dueling Network, and I was like, yo, this deck is so good. Like, why do people not want to play it? And the reason I say it's more conducive to the deck winning now is if you look at Yu-Gi-Oh right now, this game is so much about the level 4. Like, we are in a level 4 world. Yes, there are decks like Cosmos that don't really conform to that, but like so much of the deck, or so much of the meta is just like level 4s and rank 4s and, you know, level 8 synchros made by level 4 monsters, because that's all really Pepe is. Pepe is just it's a rank 4 spam deck designed largely as like a pendulum deck. I mean, pendulum editions, yes, they play different levels, but if you look at like this time last year, it really wasn't that level 4 based. I mean, yes, so Tellarknights and like Yosenju were, but Necroz, their levels were all over the place. Cleafort was a bunch of big ass high levels. Burning Abyss is all about the number 3, and Ritual Beast is like low. I mean, they're the opposite of Cleaforts. They're low monsters that contact in the high monsters. But right now, like, again, the level 4 is just everywhere, and it's like, if you look at just this engine, obviously, we know the combos that you can do when you open with like a Scepter plus like a Chair already in your hand. You can just draw a ton of cards. You can drop some really powerful Xyz turn 1. But it's like, if you mix in some other supplemental pieces, cards that are already meta that can like further accelerate your rank 4s, you've got a pretty consistent deck. I mean, the Clown engine basically is the same thing as the Star Seraph engine. In fact, you run the same amount of cards with both engines. I mean, they're just both rank 4 accelerants, but you also look at some of the most powerful cards in the game right now, cards that are definitely seeing play in a lot of decks. Instant Fusion. What does that get you? That gets you Norden. Norden, I mean, it's just it's an instant rank 4, you know what I mean? It's weird because the card is called Instant Fusion, but it is really just turning into instant rank 4. You know, Brilliant Fusion. This card pretty much sets you up for rank 4. It can get you Trick Clown straight into the graveyard. It can get you Damage Juggler. It can get you a Damage Juggler. You can banish that. You can get a Hat Tricker. Set yourself up for more rank 4 plays. You look at things like Summoner Monk, which are pretty nuts in this deck because it gets you your Sovereignty, or your Scepter, excuse me. Gets you your Scepter when you don't open with it. It can get you something like Murmillo to pop your opponent's scale. So it's like the rank 4 is still damn impressive. And with Cyber Dragon Infinity coming out, well, it's not a rank 4, but Ptolemaeus goes into that. So it's just, I think it kind of counts. You know what I mean? The rank 4 is primed to be the dominant, like, the dominant rank for pretty much a long time until, you know, maybe like Ptolemaeus gets hit or Norden gets hit. So I'm looking at this deck and I'm like, man, it could be really, really consistent. And there are some great things that this deck can do that a lot of other decks that run similar cards can't do. For one, Chicken Game sees a lot of meta play, especially in like the Yang Zings and whatnot, but I've never liked the idea of my opponent potentially drawing cards off of Chicken Game, because if you play against a deck that can go YOLO, like, they'll kill you through your own Chicken Game. They'll draw an extra card, and then you're like, well, how are you going to kill Chicken Game? They might like, you know, Dragon it. They might like Ignis or Prominence it off the field and then like end up killing you or something like that. A Pendulum deck. Well, this deck actually has a way of drawing off a Chicken Game and then killing it, you know, later the turn, and that's obviously with Scepter Scepter. If you get the good opening with like Scepter and a couple of sovereignties, you can easily go into turn 1 like Ouroboros. You can get a card out of your opponent's hand and you can blow up your own chicken game, except you're not taking a neg because you draw a card from blowing up that card off of Scepter. So it's like you don't leave your opponent, like you got your draw off chicken game, you got your XC, and you're going to get another draw off of the chicken game by blowing it up from the Scepter. So it's like no harm, no foul. Another thing that this deck can do is, and this is like one of the most underrated cards, like one of the most underrated XCs maybe ever, is Amaterasu, the Bujin monster that, to be honest, Bujin's really never even used because it was kind of like, it's kind of hard to summon in Bujins, but it's really easy to summon in this deck, especially when you have Star Seraphs Scepter and Chair and Call of the Haunted and Instant Fusion and all of that junk. You know, one of the good things about this deck is, you know, it's really cool when your opponent recycles Damage Juggler with like Cyframe Omega. This deck does it way, way, way better. For one, Amaterasu can actually summon the Damage Juggler, which means that Damage Juggler can be banished. You can summon it. You can go into another XC, maybe like a Daigusto Emerald or a Castel. Then you can banish that. You can get another search, go into your hat trigger, summon that, and then during your opponent's turn, your opponent's like, okay, we're gonna go YOLO. We're just gonna kill you. Not gonna happen. All you gotta do is activate Amaterasu's effect. You can add your Banished Juggler back to your hand. Like, what other deck can do that? Like, Amaterasu is so good. Even though it really only has a lot of synergy with Damage Juggler, we know how important this card is. I mean, the shit just got banned in Japan because it's so good. So Damage Juggler is one of the best cards. Not only just stopping Wavering Eyes, but stopping you from getting killed. And it's insane because, again, in this deck, you can literally take a banished Damage Juggler and add it to your hand, you know, and it is very easy for a deck like this to run Anti-Spell Fragrance. I know some of you guys are going to be looking at the number of 15 here for spells and think, Cap, that's pretty high to run with Anti-Spell Fragrance, but you have to remember, one, you can pitch these spells for Summoner Monk, so even though the spell count is high, it's not necessarily that high. And then what you could easily do is, I mean, if you think it's a little too high, then you could just take out the upstarts, and then you could basically just run the Solemn Brigade, and then you have even more traps. You know what I mean? And now your spell to trap ratio is like a little more balanced. So, you know, there are some things that I like about Star Seraphs right now. I like that the game is very conducive to the number 4. You know what I mean? Rank 4s are being spammed crazy fast right now, and this deck is a rank 4 spam accelerant. I like that they have a lot of synergy with the clowns. I like that Instant Fusion and cards like Brilliant Fusion play right into the deck's hands. And I don't know, I think the deck is like really consistent. And, you know, you kind of just throw in like Murmillo. He had it in his build. I've got it in here because it's just another good turn 1 summon. Get you a free Bottomless, get you a free Space-Time Trap Hole. In addition, again, it can be used off of Call of the Haunted, off of Summoner Monk as just MST effects. If your opponent has a Pendulum Scale, you can just crack it. So let me know what you guys think. I think this deck is being pretty underrated. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of these plays that this deck can do, like the Deltaros, draw 1, end up popping like 2 cards on your opponent's field, is like fucking nuts. I mean, you can summon a Deltaros and crack your opponent's entire Pendulum Scale while drawing cards at the same time, or going to Amaterasu, you know, get your Damage Jugglers back. Like, the deck has plays, and I think it should see a little more play than what it does. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching as always.